said the classical one, and to himself he added, "Little prig." Then he said to Quentin, "I'm afraid you'll find yourself rather out of your element among ordinary boys." "I don't think so," said Quentin calmly, adding as an afterthought, "Sir." "I'm glad you're so confident," said the classical master, and went. "My word," said Smithson minor in a rather awed voice, "you did answer him back." "Of course I did," said Quentin. "Don't you answer when you're spoken to?" Smithson minor informed the interested school that the new chap was a prig, but he had a cool cheek, and that some sport might be expected. After supper the boys had half an hour's recreation. Quentin, who was tired, picked up a book which a big boy had just put down. It was the Midsummer Night's Dream. "Ah, you kid," said the big boy, "don't pretend you read Shakespeare for fun. That's simple swank, you know." "I don't know what swank is," said Quentin, "but I like the Midsummer, whoever wrote it." "Whoever what?" "Well," said Quentin, "there's a good deal to be said for its being Bacon who wrote the plays." Of course that settled it. From that moment he was called not de Ward, which was strange enough, but Bacon. He rather liked that. But the next day it was pork, and the day after pig, and that was unbearable. He was at the bottom of his class, for he knew no Latin as it is taught in schools, only odd words that English words come from, and some Latin words that are used in science. And I cannot pretend that his arithmetic was anything but contemptible. The book called Atlantis had been looked at by most of the school, and Smithson major, not nearly such an agreeable boy as his brother, hit on a new nickname. "Atlantic pork's a good name for a swanker," he said. "You know the rotten meat they have in Chicago." This was in the playground before dinner. Quentin, who had to keep his mouth shut very tight these days, because, of course, a boy of 10 cannot cry before other chaps, shut the book he was reading and looked up. "I won't be called that," he said quietly. "Who said you wouldn't?" said Smithson major, who, after all, was only 12. "I say you will." "If you call me that, I shall hit you," said Quentin, "as hard as I can." A roar of laughter went up, and cries of "Poor old Smithson! Apologise, Smithy, and leave the omnibus." "And what should I be doing while you were hitting me?" asked Smithson contemptuously. "I don't know, and I don't care," said Quentin. Smithson looked round. No master was in sight. It seemed an excellent opportunity to teach young de Ward his place. "Atlantic pig swine," he said very deliberately, and Quentin sprang at him, and instantly it was a fight. Now Quentin had only once really fought, before. Then it was the grocer's boy, and he had been beaten. But he had learned something since, and the chief conclusion he now drew from his memories of that fight was that he had not hit half hard enough, an opinion almost universal among those who have fought and not won. As the fist of Smithson major described a half circle and hurt his ear very much, Quentin suddenly screwed himself up and hit out with his right hand, straight, and with his whole weight behind the blow, as the grocer's boy had shown him. All his grief for his wounded father, his sorrow at the parting from his mother, all his hatred of his school, and his contempt for his schoolfellows, went into that blow. It landed on the point of the chin of Smithson major, who fell together like a heap of rags. "Oh," said Quentin, gazing with interest at his hand. It hurt a good deal, but he looked at it with respect. "I'm afraid I've hurt him." He had forgotten for a moment that he was in an enemy's country, and so apparently had his enemies. "Well done, Piggy! Bravo, young 'un! Well hit, by Jove!" Friendly hands thumped him on the back. Smithson major was no popular hero. Quentin felt, as his schoolfellows would have put it, bucked. It is one thing to be called Pig in enmity and derision, another to be called Piggy, an affectionate diminutive after all, to the chorus of admiring smacks. "Get up, Smithy," cried the ring. "Want any more?" It appeared that Smithy did not want any more. He lay, not moving at all, and very white. "I say," the crowd's temper veered, "you've killed him, I expect. I wouldn't like to be you, Bacon." Pig, you notice, for aggravation. Piggy in enthusiastic applause. In the moment of possible tragedy, the more formal Bacon. "I haven't," said Quentin, very white himself. "But if I have, he began by calling names." Smithson moved and grunted. A sigh of relief swept the ring as a breeze sweeps a cornfield. "He's all right. A fair knock-out. Piggy's got the use of 'em. Do Smithy good." The voices hushed suddenly. A master was on the scene. The classical master. "Fighting?" he said. "The new boy? Who began it?" "I did," said Quentin. "But he began with calling names." "Sneak!" murmured the entire school, and Quentin, who had seen no reason for not speaking the truth, perceived that one should not tell all one knows, and that once more he stood alone in the world. "You will go to your room, de Ward," said the classical master, bending over Smithson, who, having been knocked silly, still remained in that condition, "and the headmaster will consider your case to morrow. You will probably be expelled." Quentin went to his room and thought over his position. It seemed to be desperate. How was he to know that the classical master was even then saying to the head, "He's got something in him, prig or no prig, sir"? "You were quite right to send him to his room," said the head. "Discipline must be maintained, as Mr. Duckett says, but it will do Smithson major a world of good. A boy who reads Shakespeare for fun, and has views about Atlantis, and can knock out a bully as well, he'll be a power in the school, but we mustn't let him know it." That was rather a pity, because Quentin, furious at the injustice of the whole thing, Smithson the aggressor consoled with, himself punished, expulsion threatened, was maturing plans. "If mother had known what it was like," he said to himself, "she would never have left me here. I've got the £2 she gave me. I shall go to the White Hart at Salisbury. No, they'd find me then. I'll go to Lyndhurst and write to her. It's better to run away than to be expelled. Quentin Durward would never have waited to be expelled from anywhere." Of course, Quentin Durward was my hero's hero. It could not be otherwise, since his own name was so like that of the Scottish Guardsman. Now, the school in Salisbury was a little school for little boys, boys who were used to schools and took the rough with the smooth. But Quentin was not used to schools, and he had taken the rough very much to heart, so much that he did not mean to take any more of it. His dinner was brought up on a tray, bread and water. He put the bread in his pocket. Then, when he knew that every one was at dinner in the long dining room at the back of the house, he just walked very quietly down the stairs, opened the side door, and marched out, down the garden path, and out at the tradesmen's gate. He knew better than to shut either gate or door. He went quickly down the street, turned the first corner he came to, so as to get out of sight of the school. He turned another corner, went through an archway, and found himself in